Hello, everybody. My name is Tim Eskew. This is Amanda Stradling, and we are East Valley Leader Lab. We are also the co-hosts of the podcast Mind and Body at Work. But we're outside of the podcast today. We're between seasons 2 and 3, and we just like to continue having these conversations and sharing topics that we think are relevant to people out in the workplace about embodied leadership and other related topics. And so today, the topic we'd like to talk about is empathy and leadership. And what role does it play? Is it important? And what can we do about it? So
This,
Amanda, do you want to get us started?
absolutely. This topic really intrigues me, especially at the Leader Lab from an embodied standpoint, right? Because as we're going to talk about, the body's really going to be a key player in empathy and leadership. But what I love is we've talked a little bit before about the embodied balance of yin and yang and hard and soft. And some of the leadership skills that we see people talking about and working on developing are harder leadership skills, things that we might consider as kind of yang. And empathy is a little bit of a softer side. And I'm really glad we're talking about it today. I think it's an essential part of leadership. There's a few quotes that I think really apply here. The famous one that you've all probably heard by John C. Maxwell: people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? And then,
Dive right in.
yeah, and Brene Brown's such an expert on empathy. And she talks a lot about how empathy is an important part of leadership. She says the heart of leadership is connection. And connection is about empathy, curiosity, and emotional courage. So I thought that was really great.
Yeah. And, we might start by talking about, does this really matter from a business perspective? Is there any evidence that leaders that have the capacity for empathy and know how to use it are getting better results? And I think we looked at that study by Catalyst, fairly recent, almost 900 people in the survey. Do you want to share some of those statistics?
Yeah. So this was in Forbes. It talked a lot about how empathy impacted innovation. When people reported that their leaders were empathetic, they were more likely to report that they were able to be innovative. 61% of employees compared to only 13% of employees who had less empathetic leaders. So, innovation. And in our Leader Lab courses, we would attribute a lot of that to how empathy creates an open mood, right? And an
Right,
open mood leaves room for curiosity, which leaves room for more discovery and innovation.
exactly. And to have innovation, you have to, you need to, people need to get out of the box. And so they need to be very comfortable sharing ideas that maybe aren't going to be the idea that we go with, kind of getting a little bit, letting it all out a little bit. And to do that, you've got to have psychological safety. And I think there was a statistic there about that. And, it's all about, people feeling like they can share anything with the group and it's going to be treated with respect and some empathy.
Absolutely. Um, there's a statistic about engagement that people might not even feel comfortable engaging with the group if they don't feel empathy in the workplace. Said 76% of people who experienced empathy from their leaders reported that they were engaged, compared to only 32 who said they were experiencing less empathy. So if you want those ideas to flow as the leader, you need to be the one that is cultivating this atmosphere of empathy.
Yeah, and engagement just in itself is so important, right? I mean, they've been tracking it now for like 25 years, and I don't think the percentage of fully engaged employees has ever gotten above like 1/3, like 33%. And some of the recent surveys are showing that there's been a bit of a lull. People and might be related to the current generation going into the workforce, Gen X, seem to be less engaged on average. So
That's interesting.
a bunch of reasons, and they talk about engagement being so important, but what can you do about it? And this is one of the key things that you can do as a leader is make sure you're tapping into your capacity to be empathetic with team members, both in a team setting and when you're talking to them one on one.
Yeah, absolutely. Because low engagement bleeds right into a loss of retention, right? So if you are a leader and you're picking up on those verbal cues, you're showing up with empathy, you're going to catch it early before you get a resignation letter on your desk.
Exactly. I think was there a statistic about that, about retention?
Yeah. So for retention, the Forbes article said 57% of white women and 62% of women of color said they were unlikely to think of leaving their companies when they felt their life circumstances were respected and valued by their company. However, when they did not feel that level of value or respect for their life circumstances, only 14 to 30% of white women and women of color, respectively, said that they were unlikely to consider leaving. So they were much more likely to leave if they didn't feel like, like their boss saw them and their life situation, not just them at work, but their personhood as a whole, like respecting the balance there. So I think that's so important.
Yeah, it's a really concrete benefit. I mean, retention is pretty easy to quantify. The cost of replacing talent. First of all, finding um, talent, that can really help you is difficult, but replacing talent once you found it is just really expensive for organizations. So lots of really good reasons, I think, for organizations and leaders in particular to be interested in empathy. Can I talk a little bit about why I think this connects to embodiment and the role of the body?
Oh, absolutely.
So, we focus in our curriculum a lot on helping leaders get crystal clear about what's really important to them. What do they really care about? And what we learn in embodied leadership is that care is not just an idea. What you care about, your purpose is not just something you dream up or you glom onto someone else's idea. It resides in your body. And if you tap into that, you can bring that care into all of your conversations and all of the vision setting you're doing with your team and your organization. And so empathy, I think, is another one of those key capacities that resides in our body, right? Empathy is not just an idea. I should, I should care how that person feels. Empathy is a feeling, right? I can feel what that person is feeling right now under these circumstances, and I want to do the appropriate thing to keep psychological safety for that person, and keep them productive, keep them as a productive team member, and also just because I value them as a human being.
Absolutely. And they sense that, right? When they know it's not just about the numbers and the output, but that you do care about their whole self. And embodiment is, I mean, it is seeing and integrating that whole self, your whole self, their whole self, both of you showing up as complete people, um, engaging together on a nervous system level, right? We have mirror neurons when we're interacting that are firing and kind of communicating on a level that we don't always even, we're not even aware of, but our bodies are communicating.
Yeah, and it goes right back to that quote that you started with. You want to say it one more time?
Yeah.
Maxwell.
The people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Exactly. So we know the body is important in tapping into this capacity and showing empathy for others. What are some of those specific ways when you think about this that we use our body to do this?
That's great. Well, first of all, I think it is very hard to be empathetic to picture and feel what someone else is going through when our nervous systems are very activated already and we're coming into work in a very stressful state. Um, we tend to kind of get tunnel vision. Our focus narrows when our parasympathetic nervous system is activated. And that can help us get things done quickly. It can help us get a burst of speed to run away from a predator. But long term, it's not great for sustaining relationships because we're only seeing the immediate um, the immediate task at hand. So when we're calm and and we're in a more regulated nervous system state, then we are able to see the person in front of us, and we're able to kind of feel what they feel, and we'll notice things that their bodies are doing that might show some discomfort or some nervousness. We'll be cued into that, and we'll be able to respond empathetically and accordingly. So it starts by taking care of yourself. And I feel like we say that all the time. As a leader, you take care of yourself first, you regulate yourself first. So that goes back to having a good practice that you're doing consistently. And at the Leader Lab, we use Tai Chi for that a lot.
Yeah, and if I can just add on to that point, we organizations exist to a large extent to get things done. And so it is easy to get into that, very focused, here are the things we need to do, let's get going, let's focus on those things. But there's so much more that's involved in things getting done in a quality and timely fashion, right? And when we get that narrow focus, we are missing things. We are missing people reaching out with, hey, what about this? And I've got this concern. Um, Things that could make the whole difference in how your task turns out, how your accomplishment turns out. So, really good idea, really good place for leaders to start is kind of taking care of themselves and bringing that in to every aspect of their interaction with their team.
Absolutely. And then once they are there, they're showing up, they're calm. Um, some things they can do are to practice having open body posture, to turn and face the people they're talking to. Don't cross your arms and kind of close off, but show through your relaxed and open posture, tall, soft spine, um, direct eye contact, open arms, those kind of things show the other person on a nervous system level that you're there and you're listening. Another thing to do is just not be in such a huge hurry. We know there's so much to get done at work, but just leaving a little bit of space and kind of a Zen attitude that anything that should be done just will be done, and that there's this natural flow when you're in alignment with it, that you don't have to hurry and force and push all the time. Kind of having that sort of feeling can really help create the space for the connection.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most difficult things for especially beginning leaders to do early in their career. They became leaders because they were really good at getting things done, and organizations like that, and they promote those people. And now you're in a completely different role as a leader. Your job is not to just get things done. Your job is to cultivate a team that gets things done together. And that really is a very different, set of skills from getting stuff done yourself. And it's not just skills, it's capacities, right? The capacity for trust. And like you say, it's that trust is that Zen-like attitude. Like, I'm going to give these people a chance. I'm going to step back a little bit. I'm going to let some people fail a little bit if that's helpful, and we learn from it, and then we move forward together. Really a rich topic there.
Oh, definitely. We could do an entire podcast on that, I think.
Yep.
Um, some other things I was thinking of, that is when you've cultivated this open environment and this open mood, um, it's important to ask curious questions and to pause and wait for response. Don't plan out your response while they're answering you. Just listen, be present, sounding very zen again, right? And to hold a non-judgmental attitude as they're giving their response.
Yeah, more curiosity, right, than analysis and criticism. What, interesting. This is different from the way I'm thinking about it, but what's there that I'm missing? And trusting that there is something there. This person's coming from a different perspective, and we've got a shared purpose, and so there's something I'm missing if I've got a different perspective. And
That's
I can
great.
ask questions and learn more if it's not clear to me.
Yeah.
I think another thing that we deal with directly in our courses is just the capacity to connect, right? So in the beginning of that process you just described is connecting, and we have an exercise where people for some people it's really, I think, learning the distinction of connection for the first time because they're actually practicing it with another human being. And we take them through some steps so that they get this sense from different perspectives and people share. And it's always very illuminating, what people take away from the connection exercises. Um, and personally, before I went through embodiment training 10 years ago, I didn't really know what connecting was. I didn't I may have thought I was connecting with other people. I knew how to listen. I had empathy for people. Um, but I didn't know how to focus on connection with another human being and really get into a connected conversation and even have the awareness of whether I was or not. So there's a deep capacity there that's kind of fundamental to developing um, empathetic relationships with people in your life and in your work.
Well, connection is a human need. We're all, I feel like more and more we're becoming almost starved of it because there isn't as much connection in our daily life as things get done more automated, like, and AI is doing more of the workload. It's really easy to have like fewer and fewer opportunities for human connection. And I think that that connection is equally valuable in its own and separate right from the work that's being done. That that is an important part of working together as humans is that we are connecting.
Yeah, if we want to have quality in our life and quality in our working life, there's more to it than getting as much done as we can as fast as we can. I mean, those are important things. That's why organizations exist. But um, without connection, it can become a drudgery. And then you've got retention issues, you've got lots of other problems that really impact your productivity and everything else long term. Um, it's kind of interesting. As soon as you started talking about how the leader needs to show up in these conversations, I became aware that I was doing my podcast and I wasn't really, it wasn't really connected to you. And so I don't, if people are interested, they might go back and watch the last 2 or 3 minutes, and I think they'll see a shift in how I'm showing up now compared to how I was the first couple minutes of the podcast. Just as
That's
an example.
awesome. Well, because you've done embodiment training, and so those cues reminded you to put your training into play. And then even through a screen, which so much work is done through screens now, we can have a genuine connection.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Your practices are working. I love to hear it.
Um, so one of the things that organizations and everybody is kind of talking about these days is AI, and we're talking about empathy and leadership. Is it going to continue to be important in the world of work that has so much is driven by AI and so much is done by AI? Is it still important?
I think it's more important. Um, yeah, because we are missing those opportunities. Because we are doing more and more work separately at home. And AI is doing more and more. Um, You can order all of your food without ever talking to a person, just less and less human interaction. So when we get the opportunity to be in front of another, living being, like we were put here on this earth, we have this opportunity to be together. We should take that opportunity to connect every chance we get. And I think it will enrich our lives, but also improve our productivity.
Yeah, we keep coming back to it. There's more to being a successful organization and a successful team than simply getting things done, right? There's quality of how we get things done and quality in the process of doing things. And AI is going to help get some things done faster with less people, so less expensive. But do we want to live in a world where there is no empathy? Because machines don't have empathy. I don't personally believe that they're going to have empathy. It's a feeling. Um, we're a long ways away, if ever, to machines having feelings. I'm not sure how I even feel about machines having feelings. But anyway, there's more to it than just getting as much done as possible, as fast as possible. And I think we would all, as consumers, as people in the workplace, as people impacted by the services that get us through the day, I think we would notice a big difference if there was no empathy in all of those engagements.
Definitely. Well, we're running close to out of recording time. So I think we better try to wrap up. Thank you for being here today, Timm, and having this conversation. This has been great. And to our listeners, thank you for being here. We always say, be well and keep moving. All right.